The Golden State Warriors really blew it against the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, they definitely crapped the bed there on that one. It's a 52 point L that they took. And that's that. I mean, I think Steve said it after the game. It's like that's one you just wad it up and
I
throw it away.
I got a
Like like
tinfoil hat for that one, man. I really do.
like
All right.
it's like stadium plans in Las Vegas. You just wad them up and throw them away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's worthless.
I got a tinfoil hat, but Vince, give us the scores of the week so I can wear
All
my
right.
tinfoil
So
hat.
before the embarrassment, they get a win at Washington. They get a win at the Knicks, and they get a win at Toronto. I mean, they're cruising. They still kind of are cruising 3-1 over the week. And if you tell me, Warriors go on this road trip, go 3-1, and as you feel real good about it. Of course, the one loss was the last game before we start talking, so that's the one we're going to focus on. And it was a 52-point shellacking. Uh,
Yeah,
I
here
think the game plan against Brown did not work. The
It
the
didn't
one they
work.
instituted
the,
last
the
second.
15-minute one.
I
Yeah.
want
Yeah,
to hear this tinfoil theory.
So
So
I fully believe. Okay, look. Obviously, the commissioners come down and say, "Hey, look, you're not allowed to rest players whenever you feel like it, right?" Fair
mhm.
enough. People pay good money. They want to see the best players available. Okay, fair. I get that, right? You do 4 games, right? In 5 nights, right? So 4 cities in 5 nights.
yeah,
Granted, the New York and Toronto one was a pain because not only was it a back-to-back, they got off late, and you also had to deal with going across borderlines, right? So that
mhm.
takes even longer. They didn't get till 7 a.m., right?
Yeah. That plane was like delayed. Like there was something they had to fix some maintenance on the plane as well too. So it was delayed on top of delay.
I just read the article and it was the plane had no phalanges. There's no phalanges.
No phalanges.
But so that being the case, right? Now you got to go play Boston, who's had rest, right? Got to play home, totally fine, right? I think that this was kind of a middle finger to either the people who do the schedule or the commissioner of this is ridiculous, dude. You made us play 5 games, or sorry, 4 games, right, in 5 nights with terrible scheduling, and you want us to just come out here and be like, give it your all against Boston, number one team in the league. Nah, dude, forget that. That plan was devised 15 minutes to be like, hey, if it blows out, at least it looks like we, tried, and then I'll just rest on you guys. Did you see anyone on the bench in the second half? That bench was emptier than a exhibition game. There was nobody there. They were probably already on the plane going back to San Francisco.
Emptier than a bag of Oreos in my house a day after buying them, man. Like
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
gone.
So my tinfoil hat to this is that this was a middle finger to the league and saying, hey, look, I know we can't rest our players. Steve Kerr found a way to rest players. Yeah, they played what? We'll call
They
it
all get their
15
20
minutes.
minutes. They
15.
need yeah.
Each
They
guy,
need
I think, averaged
yeah.
like 11 to 14 minutes,
I
somewhere
think
in
that
there.
there's for the 65 game rule, you have to play 20 minutes in 65 games, and you're allowed two of those games have to be at least 15 minutes. So I think everybody got their 15, and that was everybody that needs to. They
There
got their
you go.
15, and then that was it.
There you go. And look,
Okay.
it then you come home and you got 2 days of rest to take on Milwaukee. That sounds like a perfect. I mean, you took 3 on the road, which is what we wanted anyways, to be fair, right? I would take
Mhm.
that any day of the
Three
week.
out of
So
four. Yeah.
yeah,
Great road trip.
I would say Boston, they knew they were going to take a shellacking and lose anyways, given their schedule. So they made sure that it looked good in the commissioner's eyes, and then they were out of there second half on
Yeah,
the
they
first
did the
plane
bare
back.
minimum.
Yep. Yep.
They
Absolutely.
did the
Yeah.
bare minimum.
It makes me think of
Absolutely.
a test I took in college where the professor threw away the lowest score. And it was, like a couple weeks before the final. And I was like, you know what? I don't feel like taking this test today. And I said that out loud and handed in a blank test. That was my one I could burn because I was that good. You know, I had 95s the rest of the way. So, and he's going to burn the lowest score anyway. It didn't matter. I see that. I see the logic. You know what? I'm going to go make my tinfoil hat because I'm on board, man. I buy it.
Vince says that, and then the guy who like scored a 54 out of 100 was like, "Damn man, I really wish my test was the one they threw away, not the zero."
Right.
Could have really used that 54 right now.
Dude, Follow was in that class with me. You can ask him. I definitely did that, Sam.
I believe you. I believe you. If I think hard enough, I was probably around class. We were probably going to school
Oh,
together around the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So with this rest, I'm with you, Tyler. I'll put my tinfoil hat on too. I agree with you. Like, if you're gonna blow one, you might as well just blow it there. You're going off a win streak.
Yep.
So like, what does the league do?
They can't. They did it.
Like,
The Warriors did it exactly by the letter of the law. What are you gonna do?
yeah,
Find me. You can't. It's
No, they,
perfect.
yeah, this is the loophole. This is the new loophole.
Yeah.
You sort of schedule in your own. You look at the schedule and
I,
schedule in your own L.
I will say
And
this.
50 points, I don't like that. But
I will say
like,
this.
yeah,
There is
maybe
no
keep
national
it
pundit
30.
saying this. So I'm gonna say with confidence, we're the first ones breaking this
breaking
news.
news.
We're the
Breaking
first.
this
I don't hear
hot take.
any
this
pundits
theory,
talking about it.
this theory.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't call it news. It's not news. It is the operating theory
It's
of
a
the SVT
newsworthy
Sport Pod.
loophole that probably will be exposed and going to be talked about with Greg
It's
Popovich and all those
alternate
guys.
news.
Yeah. I would say we're
Right.
the first podcast to do this, and I'm going to say that with confidence because I don't hear
Right.
any national pundit saying this. No Stephen A.
News
Smith.
gossip. New
None of them.
gossip.
None of them saying
They
it.
could have talked about it today because the game happened yesterday, Sunday. So
Yep.
Yeah.
if they were gonna bring this idea, this was the time to do it. Was today.
Yeah.
Guys, what do you think about how do we make the sense of this Andrew Wiggins thing?
Man, I'm glad Moody's getting playtime. I mean, that's the most civil answer I could give you. Without,
Yeah,
obviously we got to give Wiggins a space, but it's 2 years of this, and obviously it's a tough situation he has
it's
to
a
deal
very
with.
slippery slope, right? Like, you feel for
Yeah,
Wiggins for, like, I think a majority of people have gone through some type of mental health or emotional health crisis at some point in your life, and I think everybody has a heart for it, right? Like,
yeah,
man, like, oh, sometimes you just think the worst or you feel a certain way, and that's sad. You feel for the man, but it's man, I get it's just basketball. But it's just really hard to see the team, where we're at with the team, and what do you do with this contract? Now you're, because it's impacting other people's careers, so it's hard to, I don't want to speculate on what's going on with his personal stuff. I don't know, but like, man, and what's the other Simmons, that's
Ben Simmons.
also like this, he's going through something, and then it's his back, and we may never ever see him again. And it's you're trying to be sensitive to what's happening to the individual, but these contracts like are also could jeopardize a franchise and teammates' careers. So it's, I agree with you. I'm glad the young guys are playing, but it's kind of hard to imagine Wiggins coming back and then, like, okay, I could start again. Like, well, the young guys are the ones that just spent this season rebuilding this culture and putting a winning team back on the court. Like, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think Moody is, how do I put it? I think Moody is the Buster Posey of this team. That's the best way I can put that. He is an old soul in a young man's body, and he could have pouted. He could have been like Kaminga in January and be like, "Hey man, like this is my third year. I've put in my dues. I've got my zebra stripes, like why don't I get playtime, I mean, Wiggins just came back from not playing for almost 5 months and he gets to start the season. Why not me? I was beneficial in the playoffs against Denver, but he didn't say that.
Yeah.
So he just comes in professional, says, when it's my time, it's my time. I'm ready to go. Whenever the team needs me, I'm ready to go. So I think going forward, I think Moody is your guy. Like, I think you're going to try and move Wiggins this offseason, not because maybe you necessarily want to, but because I think Moody's earned that contract and that deal to be like, hey, look, it's time to move on. It's time to look at our other options and look for the
And
team in
it'll
the
save
future.
money too on the
Yeah,
other side too. Yeah.
absolutely. And
I
Wiggins
mean,
will have
even
2 years
giving an
left.
extension to Moody is going to be cheaper than what Wiggins is currently commanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this season has become all about the youngsters. I mean, you got, Podzimski, he's a rookie that fits like a glove on this team.
Yeah.
He's probably the third best rookie behind of this year behind Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. I think he's probably number 3.
Right,
He's right
like
there.
he's right there as
Mhm.
far as like what he's doing. So it's become a youth movement. Unfortunately, we're seeing Clay like really regress and in age and those injuries and things, but it seems like he might be able to extend his career a little bit longer coming off the bench or minimum or lowering his minutes, let's say.
Well, they had a great stat. I mean, he's coming off that bench and he's playing, 3 to 4 minutes less, but his averages are higher than when he was a starter. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he
you're right.
it's letting him be more fresh. It's letting him be more efficient too.
Yeah.
And he's like, I forget which game it was earlier this week, but he just went absolutely nuclear. Like, what was it, like 23 points in the first half?
Yeah.
And yeah, was that the Knicks game? Maybe no, maybe it was
No, it
Washington. I
was
don't.
it was
It,
the Washington
it was
game he went
Washington game.
off.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's able to do that now because they're like he's got bad legs at this
Yeah,
point, and he's able to be a little bit more fresh and he can attack, and he's going against guys that aren't as good as him.
Yeah.
Also, let's talk about that
exactly,
part.
exactly. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
able to just torch guys. Him on the second unit is way better than a lot of other guys on the second unit on any other team. So
Even defensively,
it
Yeah.
like
thinks about.
he's smart enough
Yeah,
defensively
cerebral.
to outsmart some bench players that he's
Oh,
going up
totally.
against.
Yeah,
So I
it
think
makes me
he's
think of what Andre Iguodala did when he came over
absolutely,
here and started playing off of the bench and accepting that role and embracing it.
yeah,
They
And
the Sunday night game obviously was nationally televised, and they had Richard Jefferson as one of the voiceovers for the broadcast.
our old
Um,
friend.
yeah, but he made a good point too. And I'm not really a big national televised kind of game kind of guy. I like my local guys, even though some of them are homers. But
Big
I
time.
love that. I love that more than probably what I get from the Van
I love my
Gundy.
homers. I love
Yeah,
my homers.
more than Van Gundy. But Richard Jefferson made a good point. I mean, our bench is Klay Thompson and Chris Paul. That's wild, right?
Two
Like
Hall of
that's.
Famers on your bench.
But the point he made, which was great, was that if this team wants to go further and eventually maybe get through the play in and maybe potentially get through the first round, you're gonna need like 13, 14 points on average from Chris Paul. Like you're just gonna have to. He's playing secondary people. I know Chris Paul is a facilitator. He's one of the best passers of all time. But as that second unit, like yeah, Clay, you want to get him going, but you also need to be more aggressive and get points too. Like if you can get 13, 12, 13, 14 points out of Chris Paul on your second unit, that opens up a lot and takes a lot of stress off of the starters as well
Hell, just
too.
give me double digits. I
Give me
don't
some, yeah.
just give me 10. Like
Yeah.
I don't need
Yeah.
13 necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of his shots are very long. So, again, he came off of that wrist injury and everyone was like, wow, he's really good. He's shooting the three really well. But I mean, he was only averaging like 9 points, but his assists are great. So you can mask being coming off an injury and being rusty because you just throw it to somebody else and let them deal with it, right? So I think his points will come, but it does need to be a point of emphasis going further into the season if you want to move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know
Totally.
they got shellacked against Boston, but it overall was a good road trip, bringing them 32 and 28, ninth in the West. They're in striking distance to move up. Upcoming Wednesday night versus Milwaukee, Thursday versus Chicago, and Saturday versus the San Antonio Spurs. That, I mean, honestly, you put your best out there, you could go 3-0. Like
You can.
that's three games that you can win. Like Milwaukee's not the same team.
Right. I
Chicago's
mean,
not very good. Other than, the young players on the Spurs, they're not a good team.
Yeah, their bench play isn't great. Obviously, Wemby is a freak of nature, and
yeah,
you
if
know,
you get that win against the Bucks, then you should go 3-0. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
I demand 2-1 because you better beat the Bulls and you better beat the Spurs because both of those teams are not very good, like you said.
yeah,
But like the Bucks is a winnable game. I'm not going to say that they're definitely going to, but that's a game that you can
You
get.
can get that game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One thing to
Absolutely.
note too, that Bucks game is going to be nationally televised again. But our old friend Bob Myers will be doing the commentary for that one. So
Nice.
keep an eye out for that one. So I think it's his first one he's done, and it's back in good old Golden State. So I wonder if they'll do a tribute video of him. Have you ever heard of a GM getting a tribute video? That'd be the first
Should.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
They
deserved it. Yeah,
should.
he's deserved
Where's his
it.
statue? It's him behind the
Yeah.
desk
Yeah,
on the phone.
Exactly.
for sure. All right, guys. Any Warriors final notes?
No, let's move on to the league at large. I guess. Russell Westbrook fractured his left hand. He will be out for most of March. They're going to check back in a couple more weeks. This is we're getting close to playoff time, and it's a tough time to lose him. He's obviously huge coming off of the Clippers bench right now. And we'll see
Yeah.
how it goes.
Much like Clay, he comes off the bench, but Russell asked to come off the bench because he felt that it was better for the team. And by golly, he was right.
Yeah, it certainly solved a lot of their problems. That the Clippers are currently in fourth, by the way. They're 2.5 games out of the top spot, held currently by the Thunder.
hmm
Uh, you have a note on the Thunder actually right now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
I
kind of
mean,
fun that they're the 1 seed,
they
but
have
they
like
also have 2 lottery picks possibly.
yeah,
the same time.
they have like 27 draft picks for the next like 5 years, right?
Yeah,
And you're like,
it's
man, can they get
ridiculous.
any richer? Like they're fighting for the number 1 seed with the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, right? They're all arguably tied at 42 wins for the most part, maybe separated by a half game here or there. But they also have conditional rights to the Rockets pick, a top 4 protected, which they're currently sitting at 12th. And then they also have conditional rights to the Jazz picks, top 10 protected, and they're sitting at 11. So, as long as those guys stay out of the top 5 or top 10, you're going to get another top pick out of this. It's crazy that they're going to have more picks on top of already being a really well-rounded team.
Can you imagine they end up with the number 5 and the number 11?
11.
That would be insane.
And
Yeah.
that's the kind of pick where you could combine those
And
move
move
up to the
up.
number 1 or the number 2.
Yeah.
And they could reload from there as well. And they're already the 1 seed. That's wild. That is
Yeah.
completely bonkers.
Whoever's GMing for them, and I don't know, but hell of a job, man. Hell of a job. We all thought you were lunatics and crazy for all these draft picks, but damn, I'll insert foot
And
into mouth.
I mean, look at the Pistons. Remember, they traded everything and got a whole, and it looks like they got all of their draft picks wrong, all
Yep.
of their trades wrong.
And they really wanted Wiseman at the number 3 pick, I think it was, or 4th
They
pick,
got
right?
him and their other guy.
Well, here's the crazy part: is the 4th pick, right? That they picked, they just released him this year. He's not even on the team anymore, and now they got Wiseman, and he's DNPs.
I know, man.
Uh,
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just like the OKC that's 100% worked out, and Detroit did not. I think the OKC side, like, to me, is if you're the GM and none of these players wanted to stick around, and now you're just like, I need as many first round draft picks to hopefully put a combination together
yeah.
and steal one.
You throw shit on the wall.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna say
see
this is
what
the
sticks.
literal throw shit on the wall.
Yeah.
And
So
you know
I
what?
just
They're
wanna
going to be a
check-
problem. They're going to be a problem for like 3-5 years because they got so much draft capital.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you have that much draft capital, you got plenty of cap room.
And
too,
then
because rookies don't make a lot of money
If
comparatively.
2 or 3 of these guys do turn out to be a big 3, like special Hall of Famers, then you're talking the next 10, 12, 13 year, runs,
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the standings right now, in the West, the top 10 teams, so like 1 through 6 is guaranteed a playoff spot. 7 through 10 have the play-in tournament. 11 through 15, nobody's really catching anybody. The Jazz are 5.5 back of the Lakers. Jazz are in 11th. The Lakers are in 10th. Warriors are also in they're in 9th right now. So I mean, at this point, unless something really weird happens, we already know who the teams are going to be in the West. It's just a matter of where they finish position wise at this point. So, that's kind of interesting. You can at least, I don't know, like shrink down what you have to study for come playoff time already at this point.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the Grizzlies or the Rockets. You may have the Jazz may be able to sneak in if something really weird happens to somebody up here, but I don't think so. I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think
Um,
so, but I mean, you
yeah,
can let's just lock it in. They're going to get that Rockets pick, a top four. I mean, the Rockets are not going to be a top four team, top five team. So let's lock that in. You know
right.
what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
done. The
Yeah, the
Jazz pick is the
Jazz,
only question mark.
that's gonna be borderline. They're 27 and 34. So right now they're probably sitting right around the 10 spot,
Yeah.
give or take. They're right there. That's very borderline. That pick may get deferred, like
Right.
to whatever the alternate compensation is for being top 10.
And
That could very well happen.
next year, so let's say the Rockets end up they don't have to give up their first round pick. Does it next year, does it become like a top 5 protected, or
It all, yeah, it's a conditional of also the lottery too. So it could very well be a top five pick next year. I mean, given the fact that they're, 4 away from being the worst team in the West. Yeah, definitely for sure. It's probably gonna be a top five pick. That's what I would assume going into
yeah.
next year. But it does also reside on or bet on the lottery pick too. So
Because at some point it's like, man, you agreed to give up a first rounder for whatever trade. Like,
yeah.
you can't keep kicking it down the line, right? At some point, the Rockets got to give up a pick.
Well, if let's say the Rockets win the lottery and they become the number one pick, then they don't have a top five protected next year. If that makes sense, right? They may
Right.
have a top 10 if they're a terrible team next year, but they won't have a top five pick if they
Right.
become the number one pick.
Okay, that's enough Oklahoma City lottery talk. I think
That's it.
that's what we come
out.
for. I'm putting my foot down. God damn it. We're moving on. Scotty Barnes also fractured his hand against the Warriors. He's out indefinitely. We'll see how that goes.
Yep, pending surgery, and we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And then just one more note: Caitlin Clark breaks the NCAA scoring record, men and women. She passed Pistol Pete Maravich. That's
Pistol Pete.
Yep. Old LSU great, and then obviously NBA great as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So congrats to Caitlin Clark. She's already declared for the WNBA draft once the season is done at Iowa. And Indiana Fever have that first overall pick, and their ticket prices are already through the roof because they know what's coming. It's pretty exciting.
Their ticket
actually.
prices are already through the roof.
Yeah, they've more than doubled because they know Caitlin Clark is coming to Indiana.
At least she doesn't have to move far, right? Iowa to Indiana, right? She doesn't have to go super far.
Yeah, it's a flyover state. They're all it's all in the middle there. Yeah.
Damn. Can you imagine? Man, we're gonna see Indiana, New York, Vegas, all fighting each other to probably, like, I guarantee you, Caitlin Clark is good enough that this team will definitely make the playoff next year. I don't give a crap what the roster is. I think she's good enough to give you at least 20, 35 points or 20 to 30 points a night. Done. Calling it.
Yeah, no, that's an easy bet.
She's probably gonna ball.
She's a game breaker.
Yeah,
she's like we're gonna see highlights on her every other day.
Yeah.
Every time there's an Indiana Fever game, we're gonna see highlights. Caitlin Clark doing something absolutely cuckoo bananas. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Especially if Indiana goes against New York Liberty, you get to see those two shooters going at each other. Oof, Sabrina and her.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.